Hi, I'm going to demonstrate a prop that I built. I call it the very cleverly named spinner star circle combo. Started off with a design looks much like this. So I guess the first thing I'll do is show you how it works.
Snow glows white on the mountain tonight, not a footprint to be seen. A kingdom of isolation, and it looks like I'm the queen. The wind is howling like this swirling storm inside.
Okay, so let's see what we have here. Basically, we have a Pixie 8 with 400 pixels, and basically we've got several different designs here, all incorporated into one. We have a spinner with 12 spinners, 6 strands going across. We've got two 6-point stars, a small one in the middle that uses 50 lights, and a larger one on the outside that uses 100 lights. And then a PLEX pipe around the outside that also has lights inside of it, 100 total. And I'll go through some of the specifics of that in a bit. So if we start with the key structure, we have two 80-inch 1x4s that are basically in a cross shape, and they are bolted together in the center with a offset cut in them, so they relatively flush, and then a bolt that goes through and actually sticks out far enough that we can attach the light strands to it. And so when I started putting it together, I used a very simple process. I had a 25 light strand. So 25 lights divided in half is 12 and a half. So in fact, the center, the 13th light, is actually right there. It's not used. So there's 12 lights on this side, 12 lights on that side, and then the center is unused, and that is the same for all 6 strands. So each strand comes to the middle, and I waste one light in the middle. I left it in. I didn't jump her across or anything. That's why you can actually see they're like just sitting there, because maybe later I'll want to do something else with the 25 light strings. Then I added the 100 light strands, so that one worked out to be 8 per section here, starting in the corner. I didn't share the light, they're actually independent. So there's a light right there that's the outside of the spinner, and a separate light that is the corner of the star, and brought those in, and then did the same thing there. So there's 2 lights there, 2 lights there, and so on, all the way around the star.
Okay, you can see here that worked out on the outer star to be 8 pixels on a side, and on the inner star it was 4 pixels on a side. They're all spaced at 3 inches most places, except right here in the corner of the inner star where they're only at 2 inches.
And then let's look at the PLEX. So the PLEX is just 3/4 inch PLEX pipe. It's 2 strands, 10-foot length, and then the square pixels, you can see I've got a square pixel here, and the square pixels are spread around it. Again, since it's 20 feet, you divide that by 100 lights, and you have just a couple inches apart. That's the spacing. I went ahead and actually drilled a hole into the PLEX itself so that I can just insert the light into it. And you can actually see I did run a jumper here, because the distance between this point and the next strand down here is more than obviously the 4 inches. One thing I wanted to mention is the connection here to from the spinner to the PLEX pipe. Originally I had wrapped it around and then zip tied it to itself. That worked pretty well. Only problem was it ended up with a black strand every 20 inches, and I just didn't like that. So what I did is I switched it around and went ahead and just took some screws and screwed it into the PLEX directly so that I don't get any gap on the front.
Okay, so I thought one last thing I would cover is how I set that up in light-o-rama. In my case, you might use another system, but basically I've got the prop up here at the top. We'll cover these two at the bottom in a future session. And so if we drill in on those, we have the outer ring, which is just in light-o-rama, is called a wreath. And we have the two segments that make it up, 50 lights each, shown here. Similarly, we have the spokes, which I've created as a custom light because of the fact that I had the specific sequence of lights that I wanted to create up. And again, you can see the three sets of 50 lights that make that up. And then the inner star, which is just a star with 48 lights. I didn't mention that when I was doing it, but again, because it is 6 points, 12 sides, times 4 is 48. And then, of course, the outer star, which is two sets of 50 lights, starting at the top and working their way around. And that's it. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this session, and we'll be covering some other topics in the future.